considering whitetails don't really feed on grass.
We just got notified that there's no sound. I just fixed it.
Okay, let's see. If if we see it continue or see those numbers start to increase, it's something that I would be concerned about, but it's kind of a weird anomaly right now. I really am wondering what other species of plants further up in elevation the whitetails would be feeding on that would have an impact on the other animals. Okay, so let's dive further down. The interesting element, he said, is how whitetail learned to do it. Migration in cervids like mule deer is a learned behavior passed from one generation to the next. What it means by cervids is the family of mammals referred to cervidae that includes every species of deer. Not musk deer, though. Those are not deer. That's a completely different type of mammal. White-tailed deer in general have been fanning out into the Bighorn Basin and other mountainous reaches of western Wyoming. Well, Bighorn Basin is over in the Bighorn National Forest, which I thought was more of like north central Wyoming, but maybe it's just on the fringe of the western part of the state. So it's a bit of a distance from the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, but it's still a part of the Middle Rocky Mountains. So let's see. Another mountainous reaches of western Wyoming concurrent with a long-term decline in mule deer. While the species is considered native to parts of the state, like the white-tail thick black hills, that's not necessarily the case along the Yellowstone ecosystem's eastern front. I think it's referring to the whitetail not being native to the region, which is interesting considering I believe the mule deer or the whitetail? I believe the mule deer only evolved around. Actually, it's not hitting me at the moment. There are documents from Wyoming Game and Fish talking about moving whitetails into this portion of the state in the late 30s and into the 40s and 50s, referring to 1930s, 40s, and 50s. They were trying to create more hunting opportunities for guys when they were coming back from World War II because they'd have a big influx of hunters. That history shapes how Mung sees and manages white-tailed deer. Hunting seasons have been established to knock back the weedy newcomers. I don't hold whitetail in the same arena as mule deer here in the Yellowstone ecosystem. We have very liberal doe harvest on whitetails within both the Upper Shoshone and the Clark Fork herds, our main migratory Yellowstone mule deer herds. This is referring to the herds over in the Shoshone National Forest as well as the Clark Fords National Forest. Wyoming biologist. Okay, I think that's a whitetail. Yep, the young male whitetail deer. I'm guessing. Oh no, he's just getting his antlers in. So uses a known elk migration path in the Absaroka region backcountry, November 2023. Interesting. So some whitetail are using the mule deer paths. Some are using the elk paths. Wyoming biologists have also documented white-tailed deer expanding into other high-elevation nooks of the Bighorn Basin. They're heading into the mountains almost everywhere you could think of. It's pretty impressive, really. So, as an example, class cited Spruce Meadows, which is at almost 8,500 feet in elevation, or pushing a little over 2,700 meters in the Ishawua Creek drainage. Whitetails have also been seen near the top of Sunlight Basin, another Absaroka range feature north of Cody. Even in the higher elevation mountains, whitetails still tend to be confined to creek bottoms and other riparian zones, habitats where they typically found along valley floors. So here's a good looking bull elk. Let's see. Just an elk passes the same trail camera in October 2023. So I believe, but he's going the opposite way. He's passing another elk migration route that the whitetail took. Even in the higher elevation mountains, whitetails still tend to be confined to creek bottoms and other riparian zones, the habitats where they are typically found along valley floors. Although migratory whitetail that head into the Absarokas is a newer phenomenon for state biologists, it's a behavior that the species is capable of. Minnesota whitetails sometimes travel long distances to winter yards. Research in the Superior National Forest, is over in northwestern Minnesota, has detected seasonal migrations of nearly 25 miles or 50 square kilometers. Wow, actually, that's very surprising. I haven't heard of that for whitetails over in the eastern United States. That's massive. And I have to say, either this is a historical phenomenon with this white-tailed deer population, or there's a bit of a problem with the habitat in the area, and they're having to make quite long migrations now. So, a GPS collared white-tailed deer in Missouri was also once documented making a nearly 200-mile journey that crossed major rivers and interstate highways. Whoa! He definitely loved Phil Collins songs. Um, it's a joke from Brother Bear. So,
Okay.
let's see. Mong has plenty of curiosity to learn more about what's going on with whitetails that migrate into the Absarokas. As a biologist, it makes my head spin and wants to try to figure out, but the task of learning more would be difficult. There are just a few migratory animals they're aware of, and the known points they pass by are well into the wilderness. Really wonder, okay, that's it. Where that whitetail went 200 miles. I haven't heard that. I've heard black bears making extremely long treks,
It went on
cougars.
walkabout.
Yeah. Now maybe I don't know. I don't think he stayed within Missouri. I just thought maybe he just made an extremely long circle. I don't think that's the case. I really also wonder which way he went. So this was interesting with the whitetails in the area. Let's check out the next video. And remember to like and subscribe. So let's see. So, oh, there was that, a bear? Oh, yeah, it's a black bear in the corner. Oh, well, black bears are some of the worst predators of fawns, depending on which eastern state.
But it just laid down and died?
Um, yep, that's their main defense mechanism. Occasionally, they might run off, but he wouldn't be able to escape the black bear. Let's see. So, N
Well, the
dot.
problem is the mother ran him right into it.
Oh, yeah, that was another thing. It should have just simply, you know, tried to distract the bear, but there's still the chance that the bear could sniff out the fawn, unless it just simply forgot about it. So from n.clickpatrolgas.com.br, giant insect declared extinct more than 80 years ago reappears, becomes a living legend of biology, and gains a real path to return after battling invaders. Okay, let's see what's going on here with this insect. Hmm. So, a rare large insect has reappeared in a rocky refuge in the Pacific, reigniting international conservation efforts, including captive breeding and environmental actions that have removed introduced predators from an Australian island. The case combines rediscovery, scientific management, and planning for its return to its historical habitat. Okay, let's see. It's just being repetitive right there. The species called Lord Howe Island phasmid, and informally known as tree lobster. It began to survive from a small remaining population in Ball's Pyramid, a rocky pinnacle with limited vegetation and difficult access, located approximately 23 kilometers or 11 miles from Lord Howe Island in Australia. The reappearance was followed by a captive breeding program, and the elimination of invasive rodents on the island opened a concrete prospective return to the environment where the insect was historically recorded. Okay, so Lord Howe Island phasmid is a type of insect that does not fly and lives mainly on the ground in low vegetation, with predominantly nocturnal habits. According to scientific assessments and official descriptions compiled by Australian agencies, this is an endemic species of the Lord Howe Islands group with a size that can reach approximately 130 millimeters, or let's see, 13 centimeters. I think this is
I don't know
like
my millimeters.
maybe 4 inches. No, yeah, yeah, around there.
No, 5.1. 1 inches.
Oh, okay, let's see. I think this is the insect. Giant insects ought to be extinct. Reappears an isolated rock in the Pacific. Is bred in captivity. May return to its habitat after the removal of invaders. Hmm. Yeah. Well, I don't. I think I could possibly see where they got the idea of a lobster from. They're somewhat related, quite distant. Before the population collapse, the insect was described as abundant in forested areas of the main island, where it sheltered in tree trunk cavities and used native vegetation for support and food. The disappearance of Phasmid and Lord Howe is associated with the introduction of rodents. Oh, especially black rats. Following a historical event that has been widely documented by environmental authorities and peer reviewed studies. The arrival of these animals altered the ecological balance of an island with a high degree of endemism, where many species evolved without terrestrial mammalian predators. Official records from the Australian government indicate that the species ceased to exist on the main island after the introduction of rats. 1918 and later reports pointed to a consolidated local extirpation over the following decades. So the story took a new turn where, when evidence was found in Ball's Pyramid, they kept the species on researchers' radar. Reports from climbers, even in the last century, cited the presence of dead specimens on the rock, suggesting that the insect may have persisted in a refuge off the main island. Confirmation of living individuals came later, when a field survey located the species at Ball's Pyramid, where three copies they were reported as having been found at the beginning of the rediscovery. From that moment on, the phasmid ceased to be treated merely as a case of local extinction and began to be monitored as a unclear slash unclear, possibly a specific type of disease. Extremely small, vulnerable remaining population. Okay, the grammar is a bit off in this newspaper. So, resurrection of the tree lobster. Hmm. So, let's see. Is there anything else? Oh, the rocky terrain is a steep, exposed environment with few patches of vegetation which limit shelter and resources. Research and conservation materials describe that this insect associates with specific patches of vegetation, using cracks and cavities as hiding places during the day. It is interesting. Like, I think many tend to assume that many or species of insects can just kind of thrive wherever there's just a slight bit of shelter available, as long as it's not something like a bee or a butterfly. What else? Maybe a moth, but they can just thrive with limited resources, and that's not the case with a lot of different species of insects. You need quite a variety of different types of vegetation, or in this case, you need certain rocky outcrops to benefit the animal. But it always depends on the ecosystem as well. So in this specific area, since it's extremely rocky, it benefits the insects that evolved to these types of habitats. So if it were just a flat area, then they're not really going to be seeking any rocks.
If it's a flat area, they're not gonna be seeking any rocks?
Okay, maybe if it's adjacent to some sort of a creek, possibly,
No,
but
I didn't quite understand what you're saying.
well, it's just that it's okay. Okay, you could possibly have certain flatter areas that might be a bit rocky, but if it's an area that the soil is mostly dominated by different types of clay, then it's not going to be a necessity for them, and they'll thrive specifically on either making burrows within the clay or the different types of grasses or flowers around. So I'm describing a certain type of a grassland.
Okay.
Let's see. Hmm, wait. Okay. So, to reduce the risk of permanent loss, conservationists opt to establish a security population in captivity. Australian institutions led efforts to initiate controlled breeding, with particular emphasis on Melbourne Zoo, cited in institutional profiles and updates as one of the central points of the program. So, the goal of this type of management is to increase the number of available individuals, maintain the viability of the species outside the most fragile environment, and gather information about the reproductive cycle, feeding, growth, and environmental needs, fundamental elements for any stage of returning to the original habitat. Okay. Um, I'm just seeing if there's anything else. Okay, official Australian government documents on endangered species describe a rat and mouse eradication program that was implemented in 2019 with final confirmation surveys in 2023. Well, mice are definitely a big problem over in mainland Australia. Possibly the rats, specifically the black rats too. I think they're native to Europe. Let's see. Sheesh. Oh, what on earth? Okay. I'm glad you're not extinct. Let's head over to the next article. The from the dodo. Woman spots magnificent bird on mountain road and realizes he needs help. He was so far from home. It was a calm morning on Apex Mountain in Canada, and Brandy Hansen was driving her Jeep through the evergreen forest when she noticed a white figure standing motionless in the road up ahead. Hmm. Well. Looks like a swan by the looks of it. Hansen, a pilot, was due to captain a plane out of the local airport, but when she realized the figure was an animal in need, she knew she had to stop. The magnificent bird in the road was a trumpeter swan. As a wildlife enthusiast trained in search and rescue, Hansen immediately understood that the bird was out of place, far from the low elevation wetland habitat he usually calls home. So Hansen carefully approached the swan and saw blood on his feathers. Oh, yeah, that is what that red area I think is on his tail ending. Sheesh. Did a bobcat attack him or maybe a bear?
Something grabbed him from behind.
Yeah, and he was just able to get out of the situation in a wide variety of things. Maybe a cat, feral dog. The bird took a few steps towards her. Another warning sign is wild swans typically act defensively towards humans. Could have been a coyote, maybe a fox. Oh, so it's a calm demeanor toward my approach indicated shock, and desperation rather than typical wild wariness. Aided by her daughter, Sienna, Hansen crouched low to the ground and gently draped the swan in a wool blanket. She covered the bird's eyes to minimize his stress and moved him to her car. Rather than risk further delay, she drove 40 minutes straight to SPCA Penticton Veterinary Hospital. Wonder where in Canada this is occurring. Yeah, it's definitely a large, full-grown swan. Hmm.
Where's the red?
Oh, yeah, I think it was, on specifically his rear, but
Now we don't see it.
maybe she dried it off if it was fresh, but I would think maybe it would have already, clotted. Safe at the hospital, experts, including Dr. Mike Tishalar, treated the bird's wounds and helped manage his pain. Eventually, team members transferred the swan to Interior Wildlife Rehabilitation Society, where he continued his recovery. Within days, the swan made huge strides, and soon he was ready to be released back into a protected wetland. Hansen is thrilled to have used her expertise to help this swan, especially considering that trumpeter swans are a rarity in the area. Oh, hmm. Well, that's quite interesting. This rescue feels profoundly rewarding. Trumpeter swans are a conservation success story in British Columbia. Yeah, it did look quite mountainous, but I wasn't sure. It could have been the Alberta. Let's see. Rebounding from near extinction through such interventions. Thanks to Hansen and so many other wildlife experts, the swan is out of the mountains and back where he belongs. I wonder what he was doing up there. Well, that's it.
Can swans fly?
Yes, swans can fly. So let's see. What's going on here? Somewhere in Thailand?
When someone asks me what it's like to live in Bangkok,
Oh, are those large monitors in the area?
I think it's funny. It's trying to go against the current to get in a hole.
I think it's a crocodile monitor.
It's just funny. The other one's like, "Can I get in there?"
It's the same thing from earlier.
Oh. Oh. This one.
I'm guessing he's going after a vole or maybe a lemming. Probably a vole.
Boom.
That's pretty. Yep. I mean, that's pretty realistic. But um, I think he already opened up the tunnel. That's why he was able to successfully catch. That seemed to be a pretty large vole too. So from DiscoverWildlife.com, satellites spot gathering of gigantic tusked animals on remote Arctic island. It has never been seen before. The crowd of animals was discovered as part of the Walrus from Space project, which is using satellite imagery to explore what might happen to these huge marine mammals. Okay. Oh, well, I mean, that's a small gathering of walruses. Um, Not sure where this occurred. Scientists have discovered a new walrus haulout on a stretch of shoreline in Svalbard. Okay, it's a remote archipelago in the Arctic Ocean, found between Norway and the North Pole. So it's a very northern island, that Norway territory of Norway. So the enormous marine mammals, which can weigh almost 2 tons, were spotted using satellite imagery as part of a walrus from space, a conservation project organized by the Worldwide Fund for Nature and the British Antarctic Survey. That's interesting. It's the British Antarctic Survey, but we're over in the Arctic. Aren't any walruses in the Antarctic? Since 2021, World Wildlife Fund and BAS, or Worldwide Fund, have been asking the public to become walrus detectives and help contribute to conservation science by searching for and counting walruses in thousands of satellite images taken from space.
Wait a minute. Is this a similar article to the other one?
I think this is taking place elsewhere. Hmm. I'm guessing this is a group over on Svalbard, but it's quite rocky. Svalbard is
No,
Well,
I
I
mean
mean,
the one where it
Svalbard is rocky beaches too.
no, I meant the one where it said like 45,000 people or 4,500 people had agreed to do something.
Yeah, I remember that. Let's see. Seems to be a bit repetitive.
Well, I have a tendency. Yep. Look, it's the same article.
Sheesh.
That's my fault.
Just
I don't read
didn't.
them.
Well, we didn't see that picture of him last time. Ugh. Okay. Next video. No, no way. I mean, it's possible. Well, uh, um, okay.
I don't think this is impossible.
No, 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 no. It's possible. There was just something
Yeah, you
that
can't even get a bite of it.
took a bite after the tortoise took a bite. That's an African spurred tortoise. Um, Are these bonobos? Or are they female chimps? No,
He's
no,
not
that's
even
no,
letting
that's
him. He's
male.
not letting him get a bite. Okay, this is starting to make me wonder. No, maybe
No, it
not.
just repeated the.
I know, but I'm just watching what it's doing to see if it's AI.
I think it was just that so many different types of animals that were it was showing come into contact with each other, and at first it just seemed like it wasn't authentic. All right, traveling back in time from Sci News. Paleontologists unveil new species of plesiosaur. Paleontologists have identified an unusual new genus and species of early diverging plesiosaurid plesiosaur from a near complete skeleton found in the lower Jurassic Posidonia shale of Holzmaden, Germany. A lot of plesiosaurs coming out of Germany, as well as different species of ichthyosaurs, especially during the Middle Jurassic period. The newly identified species, Plesionectes longicolum, lived in the early Jurassic seas around 183 million years ago. Well, this is more of early Jurassic. So within the first, let's see, 19 to 20 million years, the marine reptile was roughly 3.2 meters in length, or around 11 feet, with a 1.25-meter long neck, pushing 4 feet, and 81 centimeter long tail. I don't know. Wait, 81 centimeters. That's somewhere around 2.5 feet. Yeah, wow. He has quite a long tail for a species of plesiosaur, even back in the early Jurassic, which would be a bit
You
longer
got that
compared.
one. It's 2.65.
Yeah. So yeah, a bit longer compared to body size, unlike certain later species of Cretaceous plesiosaur. And it has this little tail fluke. Okay, let's get into this. Its skeleton with remnants of fossilized soft tissue was originally excavated in 1978 from a quarry in the Bostonia Shale of Hosmod in Germany, but its unique anatomical features have only now been fully recognized through comprehensive scientific analysis. This specimen has been in collections for decades, but previous studies never fully explored its distinctive anatomy.
We keep having that happen.
Oh, yeah, where there's several different specimens locked away in museums, institutes, other laboratories. Yeah, it is quite entertaining to see. Our detailed examination revealed an unusual combination of skeletal features that clearly distinguish it from all previously known plesiosaurs. So this is a skeleton of Plesiosnectes longicolum. Wow, that is very much intact, and we even found soft tissue alongside it. The face, though, seems to have a problem, or it doesn't really have the face preserved. But besides that, I mean, looking at the neck vertebra, the cervical vertebra over here, that looks very much intact.
Yeah, his head looks like a club tail.
I was wondering, I was confused at first. That's an extremely long tail for a plesiosaur. Let's see, the fins very much intact. It's interesting. It's almost like the intact fins that you find on different species of ichthyosaurs. So the dolphin, fish-like marine reptiles existed at this point.
I think you
Um,
meant the dolphin fish looking or dolphin looking.
yeah, I guess
The
they're.
funny thing is, in reality, it's the other way around.
What do you mean?
Dolphins look like them. They don't look like dolphins.
Um, yeah, true. Let's see. So yeah, the rib cage. Yeah, this all looks very good. I wonder where the tissue was. There's certain darker areas over here I'm noticing. Okay, let's go back. So Plesiosnectes longicolum is particularly significant as it represents the oldest known plesiosaur from the Holzmaden area. This discovery adds another piece to the puzzle of marine ecosystem evolution during a critical time in Earth's history. The early Taurakian period, when this animal lived, was marked by significant environmental changes, including a major oceanic and anoxic event that affected marine life worldwide. Yeah, there are a lot of different climatic changes occurring during the Jurassic. You also had it where there was the continuous separation of the continents. So the Taurakian period is probably referring to around 185 to yeah, around 185 million years ago during the early Jurassic, when the plesiosaur existed, along with other larger species of theropod, at least for the time on land. So I'm referring to different species of bipedal or two-legged carnivorous dinosaurs, such as Dilophosaurus, that would have occurred over in Colorado and Arizona around this time. So the discovery demonstrates that the Posidonia shale, already famous for its exceptionally preserved fossils, contain even greater marine reptile diversity than previously recognized. The Posidonia shale at Hosmaden has previously yielded five other plesiosaur species, including representatives of from all three major plesiosaur lineages. Wow, I did not know that about this part of Germany. Quite interesting. That's definitely a lot of variety. This new addition further cements the formation status as one of the world's most important windows into Jurassic marine life. So, these animals, for the most part, were probably just feeding on different species of small squid at the time, maybe different species of smaller fish. Now, the ammonites, which were the armored cephalopods or distant relatives of squids and nautiluses, they many species had very brittle shells, meaning they were quite fragile, and even plesiosaurs could likely easily break them. So that's how.
Is the tail fluke on this kind of small?
Um, it could be, but it tends to be just at the very end of different species of pliosaur, plesiosaur. The pliosaurs were the um much They were the apex predators of the Jurassic seas. Now, sometimes occasionally going after different species of plesiosaurs. And they didn't have a long neck. It was very short, robust neck structure, a very large saltwater crocodile, somewhat skull structure, and still quite distinct. But it was a completely different morphology from what you see on the long necked plesiosaurs. Okay, taking a look at this. See what's going on here. Some Bengal tiger, I'm guessing, crossing a river.
I really couldn't tell what I was looking at.
Oh, hmm. Is this India or some part of Bangladesh? Really wonder this. It just surrendered.
And they were just looking like,
So I'm not sure if those are siblings or just still living with each other. Is it a male and a female? They look a little too similar in shape. Maybe it's a female and her cub. I think they're siblings that still live with each other.
so was he just playing?
I think he
Because he started
just
following him.
hmm, no, he seemed a bit aggressive.
The little one?
No, the one approaching him.
Yeah, but he falls over.
Yeah, that's pretty much a sign of submission.
Yeah, but then they keep walking,
Or
and he gets up and kinda starts following him.
yeah, maybe submission slash play. I don't know. This is it's not hitting me exactly what could be going on here, but they just seem to have.
Yep, but look, he gets up and then slowly starts following.
I also wonder if it's possibly a female, but they could act aggressive towards females as well. Maybe it's a distant relative as well, and they just let it be. So, moving to another part of the world, also wonder where in Asia that occurred.
I hate when they eat up that much of the screen.
Oh, right. From outdoors.com. Okay, well, we have looks to be a Eurasian moose.
Why is he literally smiling?
Yeah, he does. So apparently, deer are killing moose in New York. That doesn't look like a North American moose subspecies. Looks like a Eurasian moose. The moose population in New York State can't seem to outgrow the 600 to 800 range, and wildlife researchers probably didn't suspect deer. But a new research study suggests otherwise. In a way, the Adirondacks deer are killing the Adirondacks moose. So this is a separate or a certain population of moose and deer. Not by hunting them, of course, but by spreading a deadly parasite that moose can't seem to handle. I had a feeling it was going to be some harmful disease.
Because I couldn't figure out how deer were gonna kill a moose.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's a fawn, or a calf. According to the Cornell University College of Veterinary Medicine, deer often host multiple parasites that, though not typically harmful to them, can kill a moose. Cornell lists the parasites as Paralaphostrog- mm, Paraphostrongalus tenuis, a brain or meningeal worm that creates neurological damage in moose, and Fasciolides magna, a flatworm that causes severe liver damage in moose. Sheesh. Keep those white tails always carrying tons of parasites. Um, yeah, brain worms are especially a big one. But that's just the worms. It's not even the other diseases that they carry. That also affect reindeer, caribou as well. We might think of moose as being the stronger competitor compared to deer, said Cornell's Jennifer Aguirre, PhD, 24, postdoctoral associate. But this research really flips that idea. We saw that deer are actually whining in this competitive interaction, not by fighting or outcompeting them for resources, but by spreading these parasites that moose are not as good at handling. Um, is that a moose in New York?
It says Cornell, so maybe. Hold on.
No, it doesn't say. But
Hmm.
it's almost like the pit bull just ate some moose. Okay. That's it. Well, Um, that's quite unfortunate. Jeesh.
Okay, hold on. I didn't put anything up behind it.
Oh, so another video coming up. Yeah, it's unfortunate with the moose in this area. I wonder if this is also occurring to other populations over in adjacent Vermont, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire. Am I missing anybody? Rhode Island. Looks familiar.
It says, "Sir, please delete this video."
Mm, oh, oh. No, okay, nope. That's fake. That bison would have probably, it would died on impact.
I think there's windshield wipers going.
Yeah, that too.
No, I meant from inside the car. It looks like it was it looks like somebody recorded it.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, it does. Yeah, I saw the windshield wipers. Yeah, it's fake. Hmm. Okay, from news.mongabay.com, scat sampling DNA tool shows potential in African carnivore conservation. So they're using the scat sampling tool or for measuring the amount of dung in a certain area to assess wildlife populations in survey wildlife populations apparently across the world now. So it's not just over in India. So here seems to be a very healthy African leopard. So researchers have developed a non-invasive DNA tool to help monitor hard to trace African carnivores, including caracals and leopards, making it potentially useful in the conservation of elusive and increasingly threatened species. Carnivores are really difficult to study, observe in the wild, and even if a fecal sample is found, it is often difficult to determine which species it comes from. Let's see. So, somebody at the Namibia based Cheetah Conservation Fund. Researchers analyzed DNA material and fecal samples from wild carnivores in southern Africa to identify a specific genetic marker called a mini barcode that can be used to determine the species it came from. Using the marker allows us to find out which species was present in the study area. So let's see. I guess we're just looking at overall assessment of carnivores. I thought maybe it was just the leopard itself. The researchers were also over in southwestern Africa, so just northwest of South Africa and just west of Botswana, south of Angola is where Namibia is. The researchers collected 157 samples to analyze and compared the results with known data collected in Namibia 13 years earlier. They were able to successfully identify the carnivores nearly 95% of the time, finding six different species, including leopards, Panthera pardus, caracals, caracal. The researchers suggest the marker could also be a useful monitoring tool for lions, cheetahs, servals, and African golden cats. So when it comes to the cats, they're looking at a large majority of the species in Africa, but didn't include like the African wildcat and there's probably a few other species that are not hitting me. We have created a guide that allows researchers to predict how well the marker will perform in their study area and their species of interest, and thus improve their chance of success in carnivore monitoring. The researchers also use the tool to obtain mitochondrial DNA sequencing data for the Congo clawless otter, which they uploaded to GenBank, US funded research database. So yeah, many tend to assume that otters only occur over in different parts of North America, but you can find like the giant otter over in South America. The Eurasian otter over in Europe actually extends over to Asia as well. And then you have the Asian um, declawed otter, which has claws on its hind feet, just not its front feet. And then I believe the African, what is it? There's a couple of African species of otter. So let's see. That means other researchers can now assess genetic information about the large rare species of otter for the first time. There's also 13 species of otter around the world. So Philip Murathai, Vice President of Species Conservation and Science at the Kenya-based African Wildlife Foundation, who wasn't involved with the study, Said this type of DNA analysis is an important tool for monitoring presence of species, especially elusive ones. The DNA can be obtained directly from the animal or from the environment, hair, scat, etc., which means you get to know the animal's presence if you did not see the actual individual. He added it could potentially help prioritize interventions to secure the species, their habitat, and to manage their interactions with people. Schmidt Kunzel said the research can serve as a guide that other researchers in Africa can use to see how well the marker will work for them in their jurisdiction, as well as provided new reference sequences for understudied African carnivore species. Well, unfortunately, we didn't get a look or any info on any populations of cats in any area or Namibia. I thought they were going to give us something. So it's just mentioned that they're going to use it or use that specific surveying tool to get a look at the populations in these different areas.
Were you wanting me to pull up otters?
No, it didn't really mention anything specifically. I mean, it did on the species, but nothing about what's going on. So, from supertalk.fm, Supertalk Mississippi Media, wildlife officials, black bear migration on the rise in Mississippi. Oh, this is good to hear. There's a very small population of black bears in Mississippi. I think it's the smallest population of black bears in the southern United States, somewhere between 200 to 300 individuals. So let's see. Oh, here's an individual by a propane tank. I'm guessing he wants somebody to whip up a grilled sandwich.
Figured he wanted pancakes and syrup.
Yeah, that too. But this seems to be summer, so you might be interested in adding some ham with that. Maybe lamb chops.
Blackberries?
Yeah, definitely that too. The Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks is warning the public to expect an uptick in black bear sightings. Officials said Tuesday that male bears have departed from their homes in pursuit of a new dwelling place. These bears are also pursuing mates and food as the winter months near. Wait, when did this occur? Oh, August. Okay. Well, yeah, it's true. Especially fall like September, October, they're going to be packing on a lot of pounds.
How low do the black bears get before they gain weight? And then how big do they actually get?
Depends on the population. Black bears over in West Texas are some of the smallest when it comes to gaining weight in North America in general. So over in the Big Bend National Park region, adjacent to North Central Mexico, um, they might not reach much more than 200 pounds in some instances.
You know, full size?
Yeah,
Huh.
or a bit larger. But when they come out of hibernation, that's a tricky one because you can have it where black bears in Big Bend might barely hibernate, or if it's a truly harsh winter, but they had enough food to store from the year before, they might rest for a little over 2 months. But that's a pretty long time for a bear over in Big Bend National Park.
I always get confused by this. What's the difference between the hibernation and
Oh,
brumation?
okay. So hibernation is where their heart rate doesn't decrease very much. Neither does their core temperature. Um, they also, well, I guess when it comes to waking up, both in brumation and hibernation, technically, both types of animals will wake up throughout their sleep stages. But brumation, their core temperature dramatically falls below their core body temperature. I believe like sometimes they have to shiver themselves now and then to get their core temperature back up. Like when it comes to
So you're saying mammals brumate?
certain ones do, only a handful. Like there's a certain ground squirrel over in the Arctic tundra that brumates. I believe there's another. I believe there's a few other species. There's something else that occurs also with insects as well. It's not me. What's the other thing? Core body temperature. Oh, their heart rate also massively decreases as well, which would make sense.
I
Something
thought during hibernation their heart rates decrease.
they do slightly, but nowhere to the extent of like only a couple beats per minute. It's not much less. So let's see. Was there's something about their bloodstream? There's something that the ones that brumate have that prevents it from their um, blood vessels freezing.
Oh, because their bodies drop below freezing in some cases.
Yeah, there's something that helps prevent that, but they still have to shiver eventually to get their core temperature back up and prevent themselves from freezing to death. There's a few other things with the broom-mating mammals. You also have alligators that somewhat hibernate, especially over in parts of North Carolina that freeze. Let's see. Um, Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks further noted that it has received multiple reports of one particular bear making its way through North Mississippi, traveling east. From the end of May until the middle of July, the furry friend traveled from DeSoto County into Tishomingo County and later ventured into Alabama. Almost every time someone spotted him, it's kind of just habit. He was munching on fruit from a fruit tree. He really enjoyed the pear trees. Yeah, I bet he did. Um, yeah, anytime somebody has like a fig bush, like I bet the bears take full advantage of that. And based on the timing and a few distinct features, Minnesota, Mississippi Department of Fishery, Wildlife Fisheries and Parks biologists are nearly certain it was the same bear the whole time. Oh, it's another one of these. It's the same bear. Almost every time. Wait, okay. Officials said that reports about the bear was a great indicator that migration is picking up statewide. Oh, yeah, because of one bear, that helps. Folks who happen to spot a bear from afar are urged to give it space, avoid feeding it, and report its presence to the proper authorities, whatever that is. I'm guessing that's Mississippi Department of such and such. Um, So yeah, that was quite interesting. I was hoping that they would have like given us a wide variety of like different black bear individuals that have been spotted, or they radio collared certain individuals. And no, it's just one that's been gorging himself on people's fruit trees. That's disappointing.
Well, he's a happy pig.
That's true. But, like, they made it sound like there was just an influx, and it's just no, no, there's an influx of digesting microbes going on. That's what it is. Or, there's an influx of, obesity going on with this individual. So,
Okay,
uh,
well, I'm gonna put up a few videos, then I'll put up the next article. That's
okay.
over, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is it.
Okay, this I kept going back and forth on because it's done it looks real with what's happening in it.
Okay, well, let's check it out. Um, okay, well, let's take a
Watch
look.
everything though. The snow moves, there's giant prints into it. Like, are these 2 pets? I mean, it might not be real, but the snow's fluffing around and there's all the tracks are staying.
No, the hare's not reacting, in my opinion, quick enough, and you could say even the wolf as well. Um, Now you could say, well, it's deep snow. That's going to have an impact, but there's just it's a bit too slow, and there's something about like it looks too wild of a situation for this to be captive,
Hmm.
and just a wolf specifically. It's not even a wolf dog playing with a rabbit. It doesn't have like a collar on him. Now you could say, well, maybe this is part of North America, but something about that looked like it could have been maybe some part of northwestern Russia, maybe. Hard to say. Okay. Hmm. I've never seen that type of a dog herd sheep. Usually it's like border collies or other types of sheepdogs.
I don't
But
think he's hurting them. I think they're hurting him.
yeah, it's certainly always possible. Is that like one of those Russell Terriers?
I have no idea. I don't know my dog breeds.
Hmm.
It it it's funny. He could just lead them right into a, what's it called? Where they put the animals
Another
inside.
paddock?
Yeah. I just
I
Thought
think he's been running for a while because he doesn't seem to that it seemed he doesn't have that extremely excited gait to his run, but he's still moving quite well. But, yes, it's a very good, dog herder.
okay, one more before I put up the next article.
Okay. Chicken that believed he was a duck is now facing the truth.
I
Oh,
just
wow.
I just thought this was hilarious.
Yeah, you're
I just cracked me up. I can't hang out in there. Let me try one more time. It's he just sinks. He's like, "Wait, how are you guys doing that?"
what was interesting is that they immediately came back to him. There was something
He
just odd
probably
about.
lives with them.
I think it's possible, like, the chicken seemed quite authentic, but there was something about the way the ducks responded, like, they didn't usher back quickly. I don't know. Okay, well, moving to next article from earth.com. What's going on here? Rare footage reveals dolphins turning sponges into hunting gear. So it's not just the orcas that are creating different tools, it's even the bottlenose dolphins as well, which I guess isn't too surprising. It's just specifically sponges. That's a bit odd. And sponges are living animals, they're not plants or bits of um, good looking plastic. They're actually animals. So let's see. Wild dolphins are putting sea sponges over their snouts.
Kita Bear just said singing along.
Like, oh, dolphins, because they're able to, make their freaky and complicated songs. So yeah. Trying to think. I don't know who would match to them. Anyway, let's see. Over there, and the tool changes what they can sense. That choice matters because it shows how animal traditions survive only when brains can adapt to the hidden costs. So they're using them to hunt along the sea floor. That's interesting. Let's see. So in Shark Bay, Western Australia, some bottlenose dolphins, Tursiops aduncus, have been filmed grabbing marine sponges and covering their beaks. The work was led by Ellen Rose Jacobs, PhD, at Aarhus University, where she studies dolphin behavior and sound. Jacobs teamed with the Shark Bay Dolphin Research Project at Georgetown University, which has tracked these dolphins since 1984. By following the sponges from seafloor to snout, the researchers aimed to learn what the tool saves and what it costs. During these hunts, the sponge shields delicate skin from sharp rocks and stinging animals hiding in the sand. At the same time, the sponge bends click sounds for echolocation, finding prey by listening to echoes, and the signal arrives warped. Interesting. I didn't know that sponges could do this to these types of sonar sounds. That's quite amazing. In a detailed report, Jacobs described the sponge as changing sound cues while the dolphin searches for fish. Whoa, that's that's interesting. I mean that is quite astounding that the dolphin could figure that out. But maybe he was just messing with the sponge and he noticed a difference in sound. But I mean, still the ability to recognize that
That's
that's
that's probably what initially happened.
yeah, that's still quite some brain work. Everything looks a little bit weird, but you can still learn how to compensate. Click sounds used in dolphin language pass through the melon, a fatty organ that focuses sound forward before spreading into the water. Hmm. Wonder what part of the face or the skull that this is focusing, or where it's centered. Echoes return to the lower jaw, or return through the lower jaw, where fat-filled tissues carry vibrations toward the middle and inner ear. When a sponge covers the snout, some of that ongoing beam and incoming echo must pass through sponge tissue twice. That extra layer can scatter energy and smear timing, which forces the brain to work harder before the chase begins. I'm just rereading that because Um, Now it seems like the sponge is almost making it a bit more complicated to hunt, which I think is what it was saying earlier. To attest whether dolphins kept clicking with the sponge on, Jacobs listened underwater as they worked the channel bottoms. They have something down here. Jacobs' recordings showed active clicks, and the AU team used a physics based computer analysis to trace those sound changes. By scanning real sponges and building digital shapes, the team followed a click from emission to the returning echo. The results pointed to constant variation because each sponge has its own shape, so learners face new problems each hour. So, sponging dolphin and model setup. In the A picture, a dolphin sponge foraging using an Echinodictyum sponge. So this is a genus of sponge. Photo taken by Iwa Kurzerzik with the Shark Bay Dolphin Research Project. And then in B, a cross section of the Echinodictyum sponge used in the model. And C, the full model set up in COMSOL. Oh, okay, that's the dolphin skull. Yeah, that's still confusing to look at. Oh, okay. Well, there's an influx of the sponge tissues, but
But it's explaining your question.
no, not really. I'm no, I'm still widely confused. Like also specifically where those fatty organs are. Um, Different parts of the ear. It's barely modeling or not modeling, labeling anything here, which tends to be the case in many types of instances where you want a good let's see, just diagram of where everything is located. And in this instance, I don't really know what I'm looking at for the most part. So, different sponge shapes produced different sound outcomes, even when dolphins use similar hunting moves in the same habitat. Cone like sponges such as Echinodictum and Mesenterunum guided the outgoing click, while basket like Archeniae sponges tended to spread it wider. Hmm. So, the Arachniae are causing problems because they're spreading out through a much wider radius or diameter. And the echinodictyum is specifically pointing towards a specific target. So that's good to see or interesting. The wider beam also reached the jaw with less strength in the simulations, so the echo arrived weaker and longer. Yeah, I would assume so. It's over a much larger area of ocean or sea floor, so you're going to have a lot of trouble figuring out where it is. Because dolphins pick up fresh sponges often, small differences in shape could decide whether the tool feels usable. Oh, I guess I didn't know that about the dolphins. I think I had heard of occasionally they might pick up the sponges, but um, just using them as these specific tools, I guess, and somewhat it's not surprising considering its regular behavior of dolphins picking up sponges that they were able to somehow use them as a
Weren't
tool.
they cleaning each other with them or something?
I that was the orcas
Oh,
they were
okay.
using. It might have been a sponge. I'm trying to remember to help scratch themselves. Only about 5% of the dolphins observed in this population kept using sponges, even though many neighbors saw them hunt. Okay, now that is surprising. I was expecting if any dolphins that were in a certain area that had access to these sponges would use them. Almost none of them. Young dolphins stay close to their mothers for around 3 to 4 years, and that long attention built muscle memory. Because calves watch the same technique thousands of times, most learning happened inside those family bonds, not in wider groups. And also, I'm guessing that we're specifically referring to the bottlenose dolphin because there's several different species of dolphin. Let's see. Once a dolphin mastered the move, the sponge let it probe sandy channels and flush fish hiding under rubble. The dolphin pushed the covered beak through the bottom, stirred up bared sand perch, then dropped the sponge to chase. Wild sponges range from softball size to a cantaloupe. Hmm. So the tool also had to fit the hunt. Because the payoff was food that other dolphins missed, a few specialists kept investing in the harder technique. Tool use can spread fast in animals when it adds value without disrupting other skills, but sponging carries a penalty. While tools often help animals get food or avoid harm, scientists have paid far less attention to the hidden difficulties that can prevent those tools from spreading through a population. The team linked that penalty to a slow learning curve, even when the payoff stayed high. That kind of trade off helped explain why dolphins living beside spongers, I'm guessing the dolphins that use the sponges, did not copy them despite frequent contact. That's a lot of slow learners, though. Like, that just seems a bit odd. Like, something's not making sense about that theory. They're continuously surrounded by them, and they don't decide. This isn't like it's a distinct species of dolphin from another part of the world. Maybe it just doesn't have as much um, intelligence, like focused in a certain part of the brain. It's the same species. It's not even maybe mixed with another species that would, cause or have certain negative effects on the brain. At least I don't think so. This is just odd. I really wonder what's occurring on here or in this specific pod or any of the pods that they're watching. So you refer to a group of dolphins or whales as a pod. Sound is the main way these dolphins sense distance and shape underwater, and sponges show how fragile that channel can be. When boat engines and other human noise raise background levels, important clicks and echoes can be masked before they reach the ear. A sponge adds its own distortion, so any extra masking from the environment could make the hardest hunts even harder. Protecting quiet foraging areas therefore matter, especially in places where dolphins already depend on sound to succeed. Cross protection, perception, and learning, sponge hunting showed how a simple tool can shape a whole family tradition. Future work can test how dolphins choose sponges and how changing land soundscapes might change which specialists succeed. I wouldn't call these dolphins specialists. I'd call them generalists because they're taking advantage of different types of animals to benefit them hunting. And there's a wide range of different hunting techniques that dolphins have. A specialist really focuses on only a handful of things. Or, well, I mean, maybe if you're referring to a specific, let's say, type of food, maybe, and it's closely related to each other, like koalas focuses on eating eucalyptus leaves, but still feeds on over 30 different species of eucalyptus. But that's technically a specialist. 'Cause if the eucalyptus genus went extinct, that's it. I mean, the koala would be done. But these dolphins could still um, eat a wide variety of different types of marine life, even if, like, let's say, certain genre of squid go extinct, they'll be okay. So, let's see.
Okay. I'll put up the next.
Yeah, let's take a look at another video.
I'm gonna do a couple.
So, is that an elk? No. Well, oh, is that a red deer? But you have these smaller species of birds. Not sure what they are. I think they're plucking the shed fur. I'm guessing it's maybe late spring for their nest.
I just like how it just sits there. Okay, take it. Eh.
There are certain smaller species of birds that will peck at certain exposed flesh of different animals.
Okay, this is
Okay.
just funny.
They're being a lot. They're being quite helpful.
It
Okay,
says
so
caption this.
what is this rooster doing?
Uh, and
Oh, I get it. Well, chickens are cannibals, or
they're going for dinner.
greater jungle fowl. Their ancestors from India. Um, uh, it's really not surprising. So yeah, um, I bet they're looking forward to it.
Whoa.
But it is I will say though, there is always that shock, especially when like it's one thing if they're eating a chicken egg. Oh, I mean, still slight bit of a something to process, but then it's a little more when it's fertilized and they're eating it, or there was a chick inside of it. But it just didn't make it to the hatching stage, or it did make it to the hatching stage, but then it ended up passing away, and well, they still take advantage of it or consume it. But just seeing it in front of a KFC or worse, there might have even been some that went in front of, like, certain areas where they're grown, or, actually, some have even taken advantage of just, chicken carcasses, so
I didn't even realize they were carnivores. I mean, I knew they ate bugs, but
well, it is a
when I
carnivore.
started seeing them eat actual, I
Well,
know.
I think what you mean is going after members of the bird family, mammalian family, they'll kill rats, eat the
Yeah,
rats,
I
mice,
didn't know that.
yeah.
Mm.
I mean, they're like, they can be gentle, but at the same time, they're capable of doing quite a bit of damage. Is there anything else? They can, depending on the size, the size of the chicken, they can go after hawks. So, maybe like fight off, cats, small dogs, probably coyotes in some instances, and they just go. I will say though, I don't know, coyotes a bit pushing it a bit. Um, Maybe a certain skunk. Let's see. So moving forward, themeateater.com. Okay, let's see what Steve Ranella put up here. He's a famous hunter. Mass slaughter of caribou cows and calves in Manitoba prompts calls for change. Oh, whoa. Oh, wow. Um, I have to be honest, it looks somewhat like lasagna, but then when you see
Yeah.
the background, but when you see this thing, it's like, okay, now I'm not hungry. Okay, moving forward. Maybe lamb chops, but okay. The mass slaughter of as many as 75 caribou, Manitoba. So we're talking about probably the northern part of the one of the central. I guess you could say it's more the eastern part of the country, but in Canada. So it's probably not too far from where Churchill, Manitoba is, or a very popular place to see polar bears. So, including cows carrying unborn calves is prompting calls for changes to the way the species is managed in the province, especially as it relates to indigenous hunting rights. Residents of a local First Nations community were responsible for the harvest, according to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. The Manitoba Wildlife Federation has publicized the incident in an effort to spur conversations about how Indigenous communities sometimes harvest caribou. We'd like to see a co-management board set up that starts to impose rules. There has to be harvest reporting. There has to be some period when harvesting stops. Olson is the senior science advisor for the MWF, and he previously served as president of the Delta Waterfowl Foundation. There needs to be rules for all hunters, including indigenous, if we want to keep caribou on the land. Newellton Lake Lodge, where the incident took place, is the site of the ancestral hunting grounds of the Northlands Denesulin First Nation. Chief Simon Deneshez said in a statement to the Canadian Broadcasting Company that he's deeply disturbed by these reports. Yeah, I always wondered how often it would occur when somebody would be hunting um, animals, especially those that only breed during a certain period, like caribou. They breed like late September, early October, like elk, moose, and that happens with the stillborn calves. Our people have always honored the caribou. Um, okay, large scale caribou harvesting has happened before, but this is one of the first times it has been documented so thoroughly. On April 11th, 2025, an American named Nick Scigliano visited a set of lodges he purchased in Knowlton Lake Provincial Park in the far north of Manitoba. As he flew over, he noticed people illegally occupying the buildings he purchased. He chose not to land and confront the occupants, but from the air he saw piles of caribou carcasses strewn throughout the property. Scigliano returned a week later on April 18th with staff members of the Manitoba Wildlife Federation, of which he is a member, three officers with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and a provincial conservation officer. Some of the cabins were still occupied when they arrived. They landed at the airstrip located beside the main lodge. What they found, Olson says, shocked even the most experienced hunters among them. I've been hunting a long time, and there's no telling how many animals I processed. I'm not squeamish. I'm not necessarily an emotional guy, but I was emotional. I've never held a fully formed calf from a gut pile. These caribou calves looked like they were going to run away. As a biologist, I know what this means. I know what it means for a population of caribou that's down by 50%. To sit there and see that, the gravity of it, it
Jeez.
was overwhelming. An overwhelming feeling of dread. Like, where's this going? Olson did not perform necropsies on every carcass he saw, but he estimated that there were between 50 and 75 animals grouped in piles around the property. On some, most of the meat had been harvested, but on many others, at least half the meat had been left to rot. Near the airstrip, Olson and his colleagues found 5 large piles of caribou heads and carcasses. They inspected 2 of those piles, digging through the snow to discover the remains of 6 caribou. All were cows, so female caribou. And the 3 were they necropsied were carrying fully formed unborn calves. These cows had survived wolves and winter and were almost ready to give birth when they were killed. Olson stressed that the Manitoba Wildlife Federation isn't aiming to vilify Canada's indigenous communities. Many, he says, he have
Why
also
don't they
called
just
for
call
change.
them hunters?
Um, um, yeah,
I mean, why separate them? Because what's the difference?
yeah, I don't get it. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I know I'm not mentioning a lot about like the caribou in this situation, but I'm trying just to get through the core, the gore here. Okay, but of the 20 total caribou that Olson inspected, he found 12 wasted quarters that were left behind. Olson also found the entire front halves of 6 caribou, and he was only able to check about a quarter of the total estimated carcasses. Well, at least these are adults, but sheesh. What's more, all hunters, no matter their status, are legally required to harvest all edible meat. It is also illegal to enter private property, which these groups of hunters allegedly did. Olson says that the land on which the caribou were butchered was private, and the cabins had been damaged, including furniture that had been broken and used as firewood. Hmm. I have to be honest. We're talking about very rural Canada, a very low population. Almost nobody lives in this area, and all I can think of is a bunch of like Neanderthals that harvested the caribou.
Well,
But our
that's not even
Neanderthals were
saying they
never
know
in
who did
Canada,
this.
and yeah, also I don't think they would have done this either.
But
Um,
it doesn't sound like they even know who actually did it. It just sounds like they're blaming people.
yeah, we don't know at all. Let's see. Um, Anybody else? So the Kwamanirak herd of caribou has declined by about 50% in the last 30 years. Sheesh. From 496,000 animals in 1994 to 253,000 in 2022.
My God.
Okay, we're done with that. Sheesh.
Okay, I'll find something fun to break the death.
Yeah. Oh. So either this is a trail camera or maybe at some sort of rescue center. It's just a younger snow leopard cub with its mother.
Only reason I'd be guessing trail cam is it's not super clear.
Yeah. Well, I was guessing by the rocky background. I wouldn't really expect this for a captive situation. I mean, you could say possibly to help like
How'd the
replicate
kid get
his
up there?
natural surroundings on just on rolling on top of her.
I know, it's just like it's like, "Mom, I'm gonna pester you. You gotta play with me." Mm.
Hmm. It's possible. Just a
Oh, yeah.
koala and quite common that they come to drink.
I just like how he's looking at him. "Hmm, you're at my watering hole."
Yeah, koalas, they take in a lot of water. I really wonder what's the amount compared to their body size.
Hold on, one more. Now this I was wondering about.
Oh, yeah, this happened a few years back, and one of the Indian antelope, it's not hitting me, the specific species just fell into, I guess, the water containment, and the elephant pulled it out.
Do we ever wait, did we see it come out?
Yeah, I think so.
I was looking the other way. Oh, yep. Well, that's why the other one that we saw I thought was probably real.
Still a bit of an unfortunate situation. I bet they're kind of cooped up.
Okay, let me put up the I think it's the last one.
It's quite a gory incident. I thought maybe it was just going to be one or two of those stillborn calves. Instead, they were everywhere.
Oh, I
Oh,
think it said there were only 5 of them.
oh, that's still a shock. So, from Sci News, crested diapsid reptile from Middle Triassic shakes up feather evolution theories. Whoa. Okay, paleontologists have described a new genus and species of Triassic Dipranosauromorph diapsid with striking integumentary appendages, which are neither feathers nor skin, based on two well preserved skeletons and associated specimens. Their findings demonstrate that feathers or hair like protrusions are not unique to birds and mammals. So, feathers and hair are examples of complex appendages on the outer bodies of vertebrate animals and have important functions such as forming insulation, aiding sensation, providing displays, and contributing to fight. So, this is Myrosora gravogeli, which I don't think is a new species of reptile that has been discovered. So, I believe from probably the early Triassic, and so over 235 million years ago. So I think before the first dinosaurs would have appeared. And these animals, I also don't believe are members of the Archosauromorph lineage. I believe they belong to a different form of Reptiliae or the reptile family. So, yeah, these animals, I believe, were just feeding on different species of insect at the time, and they really do have. It's interesting. Their sails kind of remind you of a somewhat a Spinosaur sort of a sail, or animals like Spinosaurus and
Well, they look like feathers.
I think Sigillomosaurus. Well, yeah, they do in this instance, but before they always used to appear as like being just a full-on sail or elongated vertebrae, and apparently they're not. Let's take a deeper look. And they're fairly small. I'm guessing only a few inches. So let's see. Feathers and hair have their origins in stem lineages of birds and mammals, respectively. However, the genetic toolkit for the development of these appendages is likely to have deeper roots among amniotes, the branch of animals that encompasses reptiles, birds, and mammals. A Triassic reptile species described by Dr. Stefan Spikeman from the Stadtleiches Museum für Naturkunde, Stuttgart. I think this is German. And his colleagues had a distinctive crest of appendages up to 15.3 centimeters or 6 inches long along its back. Okay, so it's definitely far off on the time period. So, named Marasora gravogeli, this creature, strange creature, lived in what is now Europe some 247 million years ago. So, this is like during the first 6 million years of the Triassic. So, at least 12 million years before the first dinosaurs showed up.
So it's not a dinosaur.
No. It is an it's a separate branch of reptile and belonged to the diapsid lineage, which was already occurring in the Permian period over 290 million years ago. So, you had it where like the sailback Dimetrodon was feeding on certain members of this large group. So, although the species had a superficially bird like skull, it belonged to a group of diapsids called Drepanasomorpha. So, let's see. Um, hmm, interesting. It's almost like a bird in some instances. It does look like a bird, not even very much like a reptile. Maybe some small species of crocodilomorph, but definitely not. it wouldn't really hit me until you see the rest of the body, not including these feather-like structures, that it was its own distinct area. It's a diapsid reptile. Whoa! Oh, okay. Well, there's that much of the body intact.
That's a lot.
It looks very much like a bird when looking at skull structure.
What is this?
Um, yeah, I'm wondering that too. I think maybe where they were excavating it
That's what I was
and
wondering.
it's scratch marks from the tools. Everything else, it's very much intact. That's quite interesting. Two well preserved skeletons and 80 specimens of this guy. Wow. With isolated appendages and preserved soft tissues too of Mirosora gravogeli were found in northeastern France in the 1930s, but remained unidentified until further preparation was undertaken in recent years.
There we go again.
Oh, right, yeah. They didn't find this fossil, or they already had it, but they didn't.
They just put it away.
Yeah, they didn't do further analysis until later on. This allowed the crest and skeletal remains to be associated to each other. The tissues preserved within the appendages contain melanosomes, pigment-producing cells found in skin, hair, and feathers that are more similar to those seen in feathers than in reptilian skin or mammalian hair, although they lack the typical branching pattern seen in feathers. These findings suggest that such complex appendages already evolved among reptiles before the origin of birds and their closest relatives, which may offer new insights into the origin of feathers and hair. Considering the function of the appendages seen in Murasora gravogeli, we ruled out roles in flight or camouflage and instead suggest a possible role in visual communication, signaling, or predator deterrence. That's interesting that they ruled out camouflage. I would think that that might help it too, unless they found certain colors and it was probably very distinct from its natural or plant surroundings, dirt, rocks, trees. And let's see, yeah, visual communication that would make sense. Signaling, yeah, probably to help attract mates, intimidate other males or yeah males of their own kind and definitely to scare off predators, make themselves look maybe venomous or just freaky. Might have a bad sting or bite in this instance. So that was quite interesting.
Hold on, let me put up final.
Okay, so another video coming up. What is going on here? I believe it's some part of Africa. Okay, so it's a couple of lions. Oh, I think this is probably some part of Namibia or South Africa. I think it might be the Kalahari Desert. So this isn't the Sahara.
So are they just playing?
I don't think so. No, it seemed a little too.
I don't know. He keeps rolling over and then
No, I think what's happening, it doesn't seem to be gruesome enough, but even when it comes to stranger males to each other, you can have it where one might be a bit easier on the other. I think they're two brothers, and there's a female in heat, and they're fighting over access to her, which is odd, but that's what lions do. So, we will see you Monday. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy Live Daily News. Remember to like, comment, subscribe if you love talking about animals, and share this show with